roles as biological parents. But beyond that, there are other forms of parents too, like one who has adopted a child is referred as the parent of that child. And there are also those who are legal guardians of children. Those people are also referred as parents. There's also a case of a stepfather, a stepmother. Such a person is also referred to as a parent. Then there's also grandparents. So these are all forms of parenthood. Then typically there are responsibilities that are seen in an individual over a child, and one now classify that person as a parent. First, when the person's primary responsibility is to support and to guide that child from childhood to adulthood. Okay. The person who conducts such activities towards a child could also be referred as a parent. So what that means is that a typical parent has certain, what we call certain role, basic role that he must play in order to be identified as a parent of that child. The first basic role, obviously, is to provide food, to provide shelter, and to provide clothing. So these are the things that are expected of anybody that presents himself as a parent towards a child, or to declare himself a parent of that child. Particularly apart from biological parents, which those ones start to treat in nature. But beyond that, these are the roles that you play, and one can classify as a parent of that child. Then another role is providing emotional support and nurturing of the person. That is why you see in the spiritual circle, you see somebody calling someone my mommy in the Lord, my father in the Lord. It's because of those emotional and nurturing support that those people give to them that make them refer them as parents. Then it also involves setting boundaries and discipline. Those who set boundaries as disciplines, depending on the type, because there are types you set, you no longer refer as a parent, you refer to as a teacher. But there are also types you set. One can also classify as a legal guardian, whether it is a parent. Then there are so many other forms as we go on.
All right, so what is effective parenting? We are not talking about the religious cycle or the religious, the whole mentorship, but talking about family, biological. So what is effective parenting? Mrs. Timothy?
Okay, I like the qualifying adjective effective. Okay, so effective, I will be talking as a person, this is my personal opinion, is about being intentional.
Okay.
So I would say intentional parenting is effective parenting. Okay. So when we say intentional parenting, it means that you should have a goal. Who do you want to raise this child to become? That's where to start from. So some of us, we give birth to a child, we adopt a child, or we have children under our care, and we do not have something or someone we are modeling or we are training them to become in the future. So the only thing we are doing is that anything goes. Or even if anything does not go, let's say you are the street type, you do a lot of discipline and all that, but there has to be a pathway, there has to be someone who you're training this child to become. And because if you have this goal of who you want this child to become, of course you are not trying to make this child, I'm not saying make him become who you couldn't become, like you wanted to be this and then it didn't work out and then you're trying to channel. I'm not talking about vocation, I'm not talking about career, I'm talking about life. Who do you want to raise this child to become? And that intentionality will probably mean to look at this child who has, let me take a leaf from the scripture. Sometimes before God will send the child, he talks about who he wants this child to be. He goes to tell the parent of the child, I'm sending you this child. Before you bring a child, before you adopt a child, you need to first of all ask yourself, who is this child supposed to become? So that when you now have this at the back of your mind, you can begin to intentionally lead the child to that point. That is effective parenting. But if you don't have this background and you are just trying to raise a child, the general word there, they'll say, I want to raise him to become a responsible adult. What do you mean by being a responsible adult? A responsible adult is holistic. What it means to me may be different from what it means to you. So effective parenting is actually being intentional about raising a child to become who he or she should be.
So effective parenting.
Well, I'm so gladdened with the aspects from which my lady is coming from. Actually, that's very impressive. It all goes back to basically what she said. Effective parenting is the conscious and deliberate effort to raise a child. It must not be as perfect as the other parent on the other side, but provided you've made up your mind, you know, because there is always a direction for a child. And that is why I fell in love with her statement that, you know, God always has a purpose for every child. For instance, if you take a look at Judges chapter 13, verse 5, you will discover that, you know, God said to the woman, said, Lo, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite, you know, unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. He was talking about Samson. So there was a specific purpose, you know, God wanted to bring Samson into the world for. And the parent had a role to play, you know, and he was instructing the parents, or particularly the mother, this is the role you're supposed to play about this very man. You know, they could have trained Samson wrongly. They could not have, you know, it was up to them to determine what Samson would become. And that is called effective parenting. So that's why I said I fell in love with that, with her own style of definition. You see, effective parenting is that it has to be conscious, and it has to be deliberate. This is what I want this child to become in the final analysis. It has nothing to do with vocation. Then it also includes unconditional love. Because if you are to effectively train a child, you must also love that child unconditionally. That is the truth. Just the same way you love God unconditionally. You know, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 27, you must love God unconditionally. The same way you must also love your child unconditionally. It's very, very important. Then it also involves having clear boundaries. If you see in the earlier quotation I gave in Judges chapter 13, verse 5, you see that there were clear boundaries. One of them is that no razor should come upon the head of the child. You understand what I mean? So you must have clear boundaries as to what is permissible and what is not permissible with respect to your child. And another one is consistency, particularly with respect to discipline. Consistency with respect to discipline. You know, the Bible says, spare a rod and spoil the child. That's Proverbs 13:24. So you have to be consistent. The child has to know what is wrong and what is right. You cannot, on your own, be doing what is wrong and be telling the child to do what is and expect the child to do, or be telling him to do what is right. You'll be confusing him. You know, the Bible says in Romans chapter 2, verse 21, you that tell people not to steal, do you steal? So you cannot be telling your child that stealing is wrong when he sees you steal. You can't be telling the child that lying is wrong when he hears you lie all the time. So that is not effective parenting.
Okay. Now, why is effective parenting why is it important? Why is effective parenting, the importance of effective parenting? I'll hold you by yourself.
Well, if you look at Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1, the Bible makes it clear that a wise son makes his father glad. That is the most important reason why you should effectively train your child. Because at the end of the day, it is what he becomes determines how glad you will be over that child. It is true that the Bible says in Psalm chapter 127, verse 3, that children are a blessing, you know, a blessing from the Lord. But that blessing cannot become a blessing if you don't train that child properly. It cannot be, just like rice now is edible, but rice is not edible if you don't cook it.
Yeah.
So you must allow it to go through fire, you know, to be properly cooked so that it becomes edible. The same way with children. By nature, the static nature of human beings is that they are brutish in nature. They are more like animalistic. So you have to really refine that person, and let that person become. You see some parents, when they want to introduce their children, you see parents that are very proud of their children. They
Yeah.
say my son is a doctor. You can see the pride in her. They say my son is a lawyer. My son is an engineer. And when she wants to introduce that wayward child that she doesn't really feel comfortable, you could also see it in her face. That's the way life is. But it all begins from the cradle. Because if you miss it in the cradle, you cannot really help him or her again when she gets old. So that is one importance. Another importance that it shapes the child's future. Apart from you being happy, that you've trained your child, it also it's also for the interest of the child. Because it shapes his future. He wants to be part of society. But if he's not properly trained, he can't be part of society. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
You see, when you look at, you go out and you see some people who are become certain things that probably you may not want to be in life. Maybe some of them are aberu and they are the same age with you. You should be thanking your parents, that they were willing to spend money and train you to become a barrister. Because you could have ended up like some of these other people. So that is another importance of effective parenting, as is stated in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. It said, train a child in the way he should go, so that when he grows up, he will not depart from it. Then another angle to it is that it gives the child, self-esteem. A properly trained child seems to have this audacity to make comment in public. There is this boldness you always see in them. The others tend to be feel timid. And that's the truth. It gives the child self-esteem. The another one is academic success. You discover that those whose parents pay attention to their education, particularly when they come back from school, tend to do well. I had a friend who told me the experience that how he became a very good mathematician. Before, he didn't know anything. Until one day his father brought him back. And in fact, they tried that day, that was what they were doing. And his father made sure that he started learning how to study math. And now, today, he's so good in mathematics. He's so good in it. So, and he has never forgotten that experience. Parents have a way of bringing children up in their own unique way. They have that chemistry. And that's why it's important that training begins with the parents, not with the teachers. That's the mistake most parents do. They think they will start learning when they start going to school. No. They start learning at that crowd once you give the back to them. They begin to study their environment. One of the things they first study that you are their mother and this is their father. Just know that they are just constantly studying. So begin that moment to begin to train them. So that is another angle to it. Then it also fosters healthy relationship. It fosters healthy relationship because if you train your child in the proper way, you're more likely to have a longer relationship with him or her in the long run. Particularly if it's a female child, you're more likely to enjoy her in the longer run, and be very proud of her. I remember one of the former justices, Chief Justice of Abia State then, she told us her story of how proud her mom was when she came and announced to her that she's now the Chief Justice of Abia State. You can imagine that. So such things are very interesting. Then another one is it encourages independence too.
Okay.
And that supports social skills.
All right. So, Mrs. Smith, the importance of effective parenting.
Okay, so I'll look at the importance of effective parenting in lieu to time, the past, the present, and the future. And then I'll start from the society. The family is the basic unit of the society. It's like the cell system in the body. So if the society is not good, it means that the family structure, the parenting structure, we're not getting it right. So the question now is, are we even effective in our parenting? Because what we see in the society is not good. Now, effective parenting in the area of the past leads to effective transition. I was talking to a lot of people that we don't have transgenerational businesses in Africa. We don't have a lot of children taking after their parents. We have a lot of children who say, let's start something fresh. But that's not how we should be. Children should build and stand on the shoulders of their parents. So they're one of the benefits of parenting, effective parenting, is continuity. So most of the entrepreneurs and founders who are doing well, the Mark Zuckerbergs and all that, you say they dropped out of school, but they didn't drop out of school because of money. They dropped out of school because they had a vision that they felt that being in school was a waste of time. So they were not in survival mode. If they decide not to work, they will still survive. They will still thrive. They will still live an abundant life. So there's no transition. There's no connection between the old and the new because we miss it in parenting. Then in the present, we are losing a lot of values. Okay, so I talked in the area of finances and all that, but there are some value systems that we have lost in this generation. That is because our parents, who are the gap between, the bridge between the past generation and this generation, there was something they didn't connect to us. You see God telling the Israelites, say, tell your children, tell them this story, tell them how I led wilderness, tell them, because there are things that should be handed from generation to generation. And then let's look at the future. The truth is that we don't have a future. You don't have a future if you don't train your children, because they can't give what they don't have. So if they are spoiled, it means that the future generation is spoiled. So what we're doing today is to foster the future, is to preserve the future. So when you are disciplining your child, just do not look at what today is. Look at, okay, I'm passing this discipline to my grandchildren, to my great grandchildren, because I trust Abraham that he will be able to teach the people who are under him. Okay, so I want to bring this here. When we talk about discipline, a lot of us connote discipline with punishment. That's not, discipline and punishment are not the same. Discipline may include punishment, but it is not punishment. So you could say that alphabet, the letter C is part of the alphabet, but it is not the alphabet, because that's not all there is to the alphabet. So discipline talks about teaching a child, trying the child out in what you have taught them, and there should be a reward system. So if I teach you, I watch you, and I try you in that thing I've taught you, and then I correct you, and if you miss it after some process, then I'll punish you. Because punishment is part of training, it's part of discipline. The challenge is that people don't discipline, they punish. So this punishment is some sort of reactive. Discipline is proactive. I'm looking into the future. I want you to become, but punishment is that I'm reactive. I'm waiting for you to do something. And a lot of times we punish people without them knowing the reason why we punish them. And that's one of the major differences between traditional parenting and modern day parenting. Sometimes they flog you at home. You don't even know what you did. Why are they even flogging you? Sometimes you do things and then they would you slap like this. Nobody tells you. They will just say, and and all of those things are good, but if you want to move from just when you punish people without letting them, without discipline, then we can say it is abuse. But when you would have thought, you would have disciplined, and they do something, you have to punish them and correct them. Children come as tabula rasa, they know nothing. So it is nurture, it is what we put in them that they carry. That's why a lot of people carry nurture and they misplace it as nature, because they think this is how I am, but that was how you were trained.
Okay, so you've been listening to the voices of Mrs. Timothy Neka and Barrister Chukwuedozie Agunechemba. Let's pay some bills. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Our studio phone lines will be open very soon, so you can contribute to the discussion. If you have any question, please feel free to ask the question. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. That's best for you.
I was telling him,
Alex, you need to prepare pension arrears has no doubt ensured that Abia
I believe
pensioners
when I
can now
can
have quality life and finally enjoy the peace of mind they truly deserve. Not only that, the governor promised full and prompt pensions
Like
to
one day,
these
which one
our
is
senior
better?
citizens.
Huh?
What a
The old
laudable
style or the
gesture.
new style?
Remember also, the state government's pension
That new style
contributory
maybe she
scheme for
had too
civil
much.
servants in the state.
But the
bond is
mixture of
now
the
in
two,
roll
but no
calls
one
to
to
reciprocate
be
the
relaxed, no
governor's
one
effort
to
by shunning
go hard.
truancy
Because sometimes you
and
show you
lateness
relax,
to work,
relax.
especially as civil servants.
Why
Let us
maybe
come
you?
together and
Mm.
support the
Yeah,
government
And you
of
be
Dr.
the
Alex
primary
and
target
see a
for
Yes,
new
now.
Abia.
So you
because there'll be
don't.
no
This
there'll be
message
no
is
honor
brought to
for
you
you.
by the Abia State
Very
Orientation Agency
disobedient to
under
parents.
the able leadership of the Director General, DK Wankro.
I watched the other one was fighting his father.
Imagine. No, just know when to relax, know when to go hard on the children.
When I was coming here, one girl in Nini Dede. I think she was on call with her girlfriend. And she was telling the girlfriend that she had asked her parents for money and they have not sent money. Is she the one who sent herself to school?
That is it. That is it. So that's it. Now that relaxed parenting now, you know the parents know what you. If nobody want to give bad amber. Okay, you waited there. Don't be amazed. The hospital they get
Okay,
money.
well, my lay I am at here. You guys school, I'm packing on my cake, guys.
Nah, all feature what you claim. You know how to be the great puta. All that, all entitled. Some kids feel entitled. I was seeing one. I said, "Mom, you get out." She said, "Eh, let me get out. They never born you. They never born you. Let me get out." The mom said, "No, let me explain to your child. What are you explaining to your child? What are you explaining to your child? Are you not apologizing?" So I understand the modern day parents is okay, like giving the child, letting the child air his mind and all of that. If you scold the child, tell him well, but don't overdo it. Make you not get spoiled brat for your house. Where if you deal with visitors, you will even disrespect your visitor self, even before you, and I will not be looking at you because it not boils down to you because one cow, that is it. Nah.
I do a mixture, but that modern day is not my thing.
You don't do a mixture of the two. Do a mixture of the both of them, not this thing. You don't like some parents go pick it up my cheap for home. No, not that. If it too big, give gentle, you here. We making up here only now. I pick it, cheap for more joining. That's all. No, it's not right now.
It's sort of from more Johnny.
But to that, I'm people gonna more.
No, there's there's no reason for the she's there. That's a highest. I appear me here when I was highest. Alright, welcome back. It's still on to the Happy Family Hour on Magic 102.9 FM. And I am Ruth Ohams, your radio home girl. Okay, so we are looking at parenting. You understand? I saw a video clip of a child talking to the mother, telling the mother, "Leave me alone." I mean, it wasn't even like the "leave me alone" was like, like the way you put your mom, "Leave me alone," like, in the kind of tone, like commanding your mom to leave you alone, and walked out on her mother. And mom was just following her. "Please let me explain." I was like, "I don't understand. Explain what exactly." Yeah, she did something wrong. The mom scolded her, and she was like, just shouting, on top of her voice, and then like, "Leave me alone," and then walking out of her, walking out on her mother. And then the mom was like, "I can explain. Sorry for shouting. Sorry for raising my voice." Sometimes I wonder. But anyways, I'm going to let our guests, talk about the modern day parenting, because that is what is in right now. Okay, so what do you think are the challenges facing facing effective or hindering parents from effectively raising their children, or challenges parents have these days that may hinder them from actually training their kids in the right way? I'll start with you, the mother in the house.
Okay, so one of the major challenges is knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people that there is a knowledge for everything. So what you have not done before, don't assume you know how to do it. So the right thing to do is to learn. So parenting is learned. So I know this may sound strange to us, and this is one of the difference between traditional parenting and modern day parenting, because most times our parents thought they could do it because they had seen people do it or they see people do it. So parenting is learned, marriage is learned, everything is learned. Every single thing. We all came here, like I said, tabula rasa, we knew nothing. So everything, even how to work, we learn how to work, we learn how to eat, we learned everything. So why would we come to parenting and we think we should not learn it? So knowledge is a barrier. So you need to understand what parenting is, different parenting styles. And then you also need to understand your children, because all of them are different, and what works for one may not work for the other. So in the journey of parenting, every parent must be keen on learning and on knowledge. That's number one. Number two is the issue of time. To raise a child effectively, you must give, I'm not talking about quality time. Some people will say, if I give them 30 minutes, I could make it quality. But there is no quantity. It must be quality and quantity. It must be. In fact, it can't be quality if it is not huge in quantity. So it has to be quality and quantity time. That's why for every job, do you know why in these days most girls want to go for older men? They did a research. I can't actually get all of the statistics, but they found out that most girls who had absent fathers, they go for older men in relationships because they're looking for their fathers in the men. So you can't be absent and come and spend a minimum time with your child and you think it is okay. So you have to spend time, whatever job you're doing, whatever business you are doing. If you want to be a parent, just know that I have to bring out some time for my children. Number three is the quality of your marriage. You can't raise an effective child. You can't be an intentional parenting if your marriage is not good. The family is not the same as the marriage. The marriage is a branch in the family is the branch in the marriage. So if you misplace it and you place your children above your partner, you're missing it. You're not going to be an intentional parent. You're not going to do it well. So because they are watching you, it is what you do. It is how, they don't do what you tell them. It is how you live your life. So if you are studious, you say, if they can come and say, come and read your book, but they've never seen you open even a newspaper and read. So you say, don't watch TV, but you are on Z World 247. You are hiding to see those movies. They also hide to see them. So it is what you tell them, you do, that they will do. So the quality of the marriage that you want to raise this child in matters a lot, because that's the root, that's the foundation of raising a family. Okay, so if you also want to be intentional with your child and of course raise them well, you also have to be a mighty man. Let me read a scripture to us. I think it's in Psalms that says that children are arrows in the hands of a mighty man. You have to be mighty to be able to raise a good child. To raise a mighty child, you have to be mighty. You have to become who you want to be. If you are less of, it is who you are that you impute into your child. So if you are not honest, you can't raise an honest child. So who are you at the core? So when you look at someone's child and see that they are doing well, you are seeing a replica of who the parents are. So you need to begin to work on yourself as a single person, as a married person, even you that have children now. There are things you cannot do because of your children. There are some clothes you cannot wear because of your children. So if your child wears this clothes, will you be okay? So why are you putting it on? So these are the things that you need to check and begin to, align yourself properly with, of course, having the right goal, the right plans that you want, how you want to raise your child. But most importantly, you need knowledge. Of course, you need time. You need to have a good home. And finally, you need money. You need money. Don't start childbearing if you're not financially stable. If you're not, to raise children require money. It requires money. Don't say God will provide. God will provide is not a strategy. I'm not saying God does not provide. God has already provided. But what are you doing to assess the provision that God has given you? So I see a lot of people, about 430 million Africans are living in debt, in poverty. What this means is that they are living below $1.90. You know what that means? Every day. And many families are going into poverty day after day, year after year. And the rationale behind it is that they keep saying, we are now two. When we pull our resources together, we will do something better. But you've forgotten that your responsibilities will also increase. So there's no financial plan. There are people who even get married, they don't have a house, they don't have a good source of income, and they will not use contraceptives to prevent childbirth for a while so that they can get financial stability. And in the first year, they welcome a child into a house that is financially unstable. So you need money to raise that child. The school your child attends matters. Don't say we don't just go to school to learn, we also go to school to mingle. So if they go to the same school, they meet the appropriate people, they have built good relationships. So don't say it's not the same school, my dear. You need money to raise. Thank you.
All right, so.
Wow, that is something else. I was almost taken away by the lecture. That's a very good one. I will only just add, it's not because she has stated it all, but let me just emphasize on the area of that finance. I'm glad that she actually emphasized on it. That's why the Bible says, 1 Timothy chapter 5 said, he that cannot take care of his family is worse than an infidel. You see, the area of finance, sometimes you don't really blame the parents. Just look at our economic situation in Nigeria now. I listened to Labour arguing about incrementing wages. And one of them said that when they came to the meeting, that they were not really discussing about the amount that should be paid, the minimum wage. They were discussing on the things that workers, basic workers do every day that cost them money. And one of them was transport. By the time they made analysis of transportation in Abuja alone, because they used Abuja as a case sample, when they made analysis of transportation, the workers undertake every day just to go to work, they discovered that it was 48,000 naira. That is how much the least worker could possibly spend. They're not talking about those that are living, beyond. They're talking about those living within Abuja. That it will cost them 48,000 naira every month just to transport themselves from their house to the place of work. You now discover that even the 60,000 naira being offered, 48 will be spent just on transportation alone. Then, how do you expect that parents to finance their family? That is why it's very difficult. And I'm always very quick to blame parents. Because he keeps saying finance. From where? Is he going to kill himself? The woman is already involved. The man is already involved. Both of them have, overworked themselves. And remember, once you start working and both of them are working, the issue of quality of time is gone. You can't have it both ways. That means no more quality of time. So, and just like you also pointed out, I want to raise the other issue because you raised it, which is a very important issue of the child that the parents were begging. Parents always have this dilemma of making a balance between nurturing and discipline. And that is why I like the idea that I said, look, there are different methods or different styles of parenting. You must learn it. Don't just think that you know. Go back to your studies, learn types of parenting so that you can set a balance between nurturing and discipline. You can't throw away any of them. To throw away nurturing means you probably create a child that is will hurt you in the future. To also train away discipline is to train a child that will become wayward in the future. So either way, this does not make sense. So you need to create a balance, and to only do that is to study. So these are the two areas I wanted. Yeah, I think she has said virtually everything that needs to be said about it.
All right, we shall be opening the studio phone lines right now for you to be a part of the discussion. 0907 677 1029, 0916 988 1029, and 0809 666 1029. Okay. Hello? Good afternoon, sir. Go ahead, sir. Mrs. Timothy.
Yeah, thank you, my dear. See, really, I've been following up, like, the Bible says inculcate the truth in your child. The quality of the building depends largely on the sort of materials used in the structure. The Apostle Paul said that the best construction materials for Christian personalities are gold, silver, precious stones. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 10, 12. So this represents qualities such as faith, wisdom, discernment, loyalty, respect, and loving appreciation for God and His law. My dear, let me say, how can parents help their children from earliest childhood to develop these qualities? I must tell you, when we talk of discipline, let me say, I'm trying to be snappy enough anyway. The Bible says, not even the Bible, effective discipline means that one meaningful form of discipline is to make children feel the unpleasant consequences of wrong behavior. Galatians chapter 6, 7, compared to Exodus 34, 6. So, if, for instance, your child makes a mess, cleaning it up by himself may make the strongest impression. Has he treated someone unfairly? Requires that he apologize, may correct this wrong.
Okay.
Anyway, so another form of discipline is the denial of privilege or privileges for a time in order to drive home the needed lesson. In this way, the child learns the wisdom of sticking to the right principles. I keep saying it. I love this program. My name remains Organic David. I'm calling from my own town, Charo.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So the parenting styles, we're talking about them. What are the parenting styles? I'll start with you, Barrister.
Well, there are so many basic, there are quite a number of parenting styles. In fact, it's almost like each psychologist, each professor of psychology comes up with his own. But there are basically four, that are seen as the basic parenting styles. So I'm going to state the four, then probably also go ahead to mention one or two other forms of style that have been raised by other scholars. Now, with respect to the basic four that generally accepted four, we have the authoritarian. I'll explain that later. We have the authoritative. We also have the permissive. Then we also have the uninvolved. Now, let me start with the authoritarian. Now, with respect to the authoritarian, in this case, the parents have very high expectations of their child. And on that ground, they set strict rules. And the problem with this authoritarian is that these rules that are set are not usually explained to the child. And you find that sometimes the child is punished for breaching those rules, even when they don't know the benefits of the rule set. So, and when they are punished with such strong and harsh way of punishment that the child goes back beginning to wonder, I don't even know why I'm being punished, so the child constantly lives in fear of breaching those rules because it does not even understand them. That is authoritarian style of parenting. It was predominantly in Africa. It was practiced in Africa in ancient times. Then another one is authoritative. Like I said, the authoritative style is where parents are supportive and responsive, but also set firm limits for their children. So even though they support their children and they respond to their children's needs, they also